Escape is a loop playing on repeat. Escape is finding solace in your defeat. It's on a loop in my head, twisted by it again. The noise is comfort to me. Spin it again on repeat.
Greetings, humans. I'm George. Welcome back to the Windmill full of corpses. And we've got representing Sicksense in the house. The vocal executioners are back. Killer V, Rob the Ripper. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Right. You've been busy bees lately. You've had shows. You're getting ready for the album release. Let's get a bit into that. How have your recent shows been? How's the energy in the band? You've got a new lineup.
It's been amazing. It was a really good time. It was awesome. So we just played our biggest show up to date was last month, opening up for Escape the Fate and Dead. So we played to like about 500 people or more than that at that show. Yeah. It was really packed. So that was awesome. It was great energy there. Great vibes with the new lineup too. The fans loved us. It's always great to play in front of new people, and they're like immediately like, "Oh wow, this is great. Let's buy merch from you guys." It's like, "Oh, awesome." Yeah. And then we did the Snot shows too recently. We traveled to California for that with the RV. So it was nice to see that everything worked out as well. Traveling on the road in an RV all cramped up together, and yeah, killed it again there too. It was awesome.
Okay, great. Last time we talked, we ended up talking for like an hour or longer. And this time around, I set a goal specifically to try to keep things a bit more concise. I failed. So we're going to go all in, and we'll see how much we have time for. But I wanted to talk about the things that I didn't see a lot of other people talk about, and to get into the nitty-gritty details with the singles, with what we've got out from the new album. So let's start with that. Let's start with On Repeat. The first single we heard, this song has bipolar. It's like got the highest contrast in between positive, uplifting stuff and dark stuff that we've heard so far, at least in my impression. Why? What's up with that in that creative decision? Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
It source of inspiration, I guess. When we heard the instrumental, it shifted a lot to its final version, but the very first demo version of the song, it like immediately started really dark, which is not very common for Sicksense songs, at least up until that point in time. A lot of our stuff is fun and groovy, and uplifting. And that one just started really dark, but then the chorus had more like positive vibes, I think, musically. So we just decided to match that with the lyrics and the vocals. And it was funny because that's the only song I think on the record that I was just sitting on the couch and I wrote the majority of the lyrics on my phone. It was just like a rush of inspiration, I guess. And then Robbie and I sat down and completed it, whereas, other songs we approach a bit differently, I guess. But yeah, it just came out that way. I don't know. It wasn't forced or planned or anything. It was just the vibe of what we were feeling, and it just worked, I think.
Yeah, On Repeat, like Vicky was just mentioning, a lot of the songs we collaborate on together, but On Repeat was one of those that it was just mostly Vicky who wrote a lot of it. Even a lot of the vocal parts I do on that song, it was written by Vicky. There was like, maybe I just had one of my verses was something that I had written, and everything else I did on the
part after the chorus, the screaming part.
Yeah, I think like my verse 2 was what I had written. But yeah, just to answer your question, it kind of was just like the new songs that we were given at that time, working with our former guitarist Brand, they were just like, it took a darker tone, more metal, in the metal realm of modern metal, and like more like djenty stuff. So I was like, we were just in that headspace, and like, I think he was going through it in his personal life with his own stuff. And then with everything that was going on with the band that was happening with us, it put us in a dark headspace too. So that's why more of the songs on this album are a little more emotional than what you've heard from us with our past releases. But then at the end of the day, we're still Sicksense. So we still want there to be a light at the end of the tunnel. We're not, like we've always said in the past, like we're not one of those bands that's like, oh no, life sucks. Well, there's nothing we can do about it. It's like, yeah, life sucks. You work through it. That's just life. It's every day. Get through it and try to make the best out of it. Look for that light at the end of the tunnel. And if there's not, we'll keep digging out of it. So that's kind of what On Repeat's about.
Okay, that's actually kind of what I was aiming at, because I totally feel that the fact that it's got these contrasting components definitely reflects that.
Yeah.
Let's go into the lyrics though, because that's like your songs are all about the stories. I've gotten so immersed in that, and with On Repeat, I think it's my favorite one and the most relatable to me. My favorite lyrical line of last year is "Stones can't ever burn. I hope you'll find them soon." So talk to me about that. And like, I don't know, I feel like that's where like the message of the song all converges. Talk to me about that line and how that ties into the main theme of the song.
Yeah, stones. It's a metaphor for two ways you could take it, which both are the same thing, I guess. Represents like a stone is something rock solid. So when you're talking about a relationship that you have with someone, whether it's romantic or friendship or whatever, it's like when a relationship is rock solid, it can never like really be damaged. But also, if we want to get like a little more particular to the two of us, stones can also represent like a wedding stone, a rock, you know? So it's a metaphor. It started from flipping the two popular phrases, which, you know, you caught on, I think, with burning bridges and then turning stones, or leaving no stone unturned. And I flipped those two lines and just gave them new meaning. So instead of burning bridges, which is like ruining relationships, it's leave no bridge unturned, which means like explore all possibilities to get to where you want to go. And then the line we were talking about with the stones is if something is really, really concrete, it can never really be destroyed.
Yeah, I had kind of caught on to that recently, because you do have the stone at the end, and the stone results from burning a flower, and the flower results from the exploding Robby.
Yes.
So yeah, that's like the smoothest self-insert I've ever seen in a music video.
Well, thank you. Well, yeah, we like as much as we can to pass along the message in our visuals as well, with the songs. Now, in some of them, it's near to impossible to actually do it line for line, because it would involve like a crowd and acting and a big production and all that. But
Michael Bay directing.
but you know, if we can just show it with simple metaphors and cool imagery, we always go that route.
Okay, we've got a couple more cool motifs and stuff happening in the videos. I feel like there's nothing in your videos that's there just to look cool. Everything has a meaning. So in this one, you have like lots of references to TV noise and like fog and stuff like that. And you have like the blindfolds that come off and then you face each other. And then you also have the stuff with like Deli and the silhouettes dancing behind Vicky. So tell me a bit about those things. What do those mean?
Should I continue?
Yeah.
Okay.
You wrote the storyline a lot in this video too.
Yeah. So the blindfold, for example, the start of the video, the blindfold is on, backs to each other. In the middle of the video, blindfold is off and we're facing each other. That represents arguing. So at the start of the video, the blindfold is on and we have our backs to each other, because I wanted to show that sometimes you could be having an argument with someone and disagreeing and you don't exactly know why, or you don't know why it's happening. So you have your blindfold on, you can't see the person, you're back to the person.
Not seeing eye to eye.
Not seeing eye to eye. Yeah. You're just arguing and yelling into, you know, the blank space or whatever. Whereas in verse 2, when the blindfold is off and we're facing each other, it's more that like, okay, we're fully aware that this argument is happening and we're fully engaged and we're leaning into it. It's like a progression, which is something about lyrics too as well. We always want our lyrics to progress, either chronologically or thematically or whatever. Like verse 2 should always be continuing, what verse 1 has happened in verse 1, and it should be more powerful. So that explains the blindfold. Mm-hmm. What else was brought up?
It was also kind of like we're hostages to ourselves in that regard, because we're like tied up together. So it's kind of
yeah,
cool.
Like we're only here together in this blank space, and we're fighting against each other.
Yeah, there was also like the flowers referenced in On Repeat was like a nod to our album cover.
Oh yeah,
which we will have more of that in some upcoming videos too. So
okay,
yes. There was more
the
that you
dancing
mentioned
too with Deli in the back.
No, but before that there was one more.
Yeah, TV noise and you staring very close to the TV, the thing your parents tell you not to do.
Yeah. So like the TV static and noise, that's also a metaphor for heated conversations and arguments where like at some point it doesn't matter what the person is saying, all you're hearing is noise, and you're just like trying to interact with the noise or trying to make it through, but it's near to impossible. And it also represents isolation, that like the person you're talking to isn't actually physically there in the room with you. It's either on a phone or on a computer or somewhere. So that's what we wanted to show with the screens. And then the dancing, or moshing, slow-mo in the back, whatever it is, that was really because when the song was complete and we had that main riff with the keys that repeats 3 times in the song, the do 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 do, that. It just visually, I was picturing myself being alone in this like club vibe. Now we couldn't actually get the club because again, it would involve a lot of people and we just don't have the money for that kind of production. But we were picturing that feeling of being surrounded by people having fun and like dancing and enjoying themselves, but you're just like kind of standing there and just feeling alone through all that.
Yeah, and the people in the background it's hard to tell, but they're all like faceless too. So it's kind of like, like Vicky said, you're just like isolated and you just have your imaginary friend there that no one can see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, that's really cool. This last one is the only one that I was completely off on. I thought that to me, that was something like racing thoughts through the back of your head while you're trying to do focus on something.
That's a good one too. You need to give these bands your ideas, George. Mm-hmm. These are great.
No, but that's the beauty of like powerful imagery, that you can mean it one way and then there's so many other, interpretations that could sprout that would make sense,
Yeah, I know. And it started annoying me when I can't do that with music videos, when there's just stuff there and I can't make sense of it. So you guys really put a lot of thought into that stuff, and just kind of understanding the story and being able to relate to it makes the song 10 times what it would be otherwise. So
that's how we feel. So yeah, we're always happy to see that connection happen, for other people as well. Cause sometimes we're like, well, are we just doing this for ourselves? But then no, it's like, okay, other people connect with it as well. So.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
Let's move on to the next one. And I want to go to Masquerade Parade next, because it's also more narrative and with a lot of motifs and the stuff. And we're going to go through the same pattern. This one's like the darkest you've ever put out. And it's also the most like social commentary almost. You're very confidently trampling over hot button topics.
Our planet isn't dying, they don't want you to live. Restricting our resources with abundance they give. Open places price you out, there's nothing you can do about. With the poison minds they raise against, to indoctrinate the opposite. In your pragmatic, everyone you know's an addict, that we had it with the static. My response is automatic, I'm addicted to the thrills. I'm making music, not the pills. I got you popping for your riddling if I can in the fields. I'm a rated stealth. Doctors ain't about the health, on the end for the wealth. Masquerading practitioner, as your God King President
So what kind of trouble are you trying to get yourselves into?
Everything. Nothing's off limits. We have freedom of speech in America.
No, I mean, I just think, well, Robby wrote the majority of this song, at least that type of stuff. I wrote the chorus and pretty much just the chorus. I don't remember.
I really kind of got into a panic, George, because like we didn't have like many songs left to work on this album, and I was like, wait, everything's so emotional on this record. I didn't bust anyone's buttons with this yet, so let me get a little social commentary song going. So that's how that came about. So I was inspired to like, well, I only have the one song, so let's talk about everything. Just like, but I think we did it in a way that it kind of fits. It flows, and it's kind of got like a movie style to it.
But also, I feel like the climate has changed, and I'm not talking about the actual weather right now. I just mean the climate of people, at least here in America. It's not how it was 4 or 5 years ago, where like the mention of anything would like cause huge strife. Now it's more like a lot of people are saying whatever they want, and a lot of them are getting into, let's say, trouble, but because there's so many, it's not as single focused, if that makes sense. And I think it's also, it's kind of ignorant to ignore what is happening out there and pretend like, yeah, everything's fine and everything's great. You know, I think the things that we talk about, they're not necessarily taking sides in a particular way. It's more like, well, this is crap, this is hypocritical, this, like, it's really just like common sense to us, I think.
Yeah.
And that's why the line, are we the only ones who haven't lost our minds?
Are we the only ones who haven't lost our minds?
Sometimes going through the last few years, it really has felt like that. But then when you meet someone, you talk to this person in person, because a lot of people are scared to say these things online, most people agree. Like, most people behind the scenes agree with most of what we have to say. But, so we're not alone in that, but sometimes it does feel alone. So,
Yeah,
go for it, George.
Yeah, I've definitely had the same experience, that I saw people who I was actually uneasy about mentioning some of the things I think to them, because I thought they would be, very get out. But I've found that people are a lot more reasonable than you expect. And the internet really kind of paints a caricature of the worst extremes of what people can believe. And that also just gets the spotlight a lot more than it should.
Absolutely. And I think it's a shame that we've tied certain sets of beliefs to a specific personality character. It's like, no, at the end of the day, humans were complex, we're different from each other. So it's like, you can't just be like, well, you have these same set of beliefs as this other person, therefore you're the same person. Like, it doesn't work that way. It's like, no, have the conversation, get to know someone. And yeah, and I think our fans at least realize this, but the reason why we talk about these things, and we probably, like, we don't put it in the forefront as much, because at the end of the day, we're musicians and we're not trying to...
You're having political debates with people.
Yeah, that's not something that we care about as much. Like, we're just going to write about what we feel, and that was something that we were feeling at the time. But it comes from a place of caring. That's what I'm trying to get to. Like, we're not just doing it to insult people. We're not just, like, trying to be provocative. It's like, no, we actually care. We see how it's impacting people around us in a negative way, and we want them to get better. And, it comes from a place of care.
Yeah, it's like, and also, like, I just see, like, there's, like, certain topics in music, like, for lyrics that some people don't want to touch on. And it's like, yeah, what Vicky says, it just comes from a place of caring, where it's like, well, yeah, I might get heat for saying this or, like, putting this in a song, but it's like, hey, like, I want to be the one, well, at least I said it. I said it from all these years ago, way back when, and I'm still saying it now. It's just more like, we're always, like, about, like, hey, if our government is, like, colluding with, like, certain types of people, like, in the pharmaceutical industry here in the States, or with doctors, it's like a lot of problems that we have in society here in the West is from that. It's like, it's this exacerbation of, like, hey, like, people are going through it, or, like, having these feelings, and then we're pumping them with drugs, or, like, telling them, take this surgery or do this. and that to yourselves. And it's like, that's not natural. Your body doesn't need that. It needs vitamins. It needs like exercise. It needs human social interaction. Like,
but also it needs to be like, I don't want to get too deep into this, but the biggest realization for me was that in America, they sell you the problem for super cheap, and then the solution is super expensive, so that's why you see an increased like amount of people that have diabetes, or other health problems, because it's like, it's very easy to live an unhealthy life here because things are so affordable. But then when you develop this issue and you need the solution, it's so expensive. And it just makes you wonder why. And why, like, for myself, coming from a place like Greece, why is the same drug that costs me like €5 in Greece, why does it cost like $200 here? Just the same exact drug, you know what I mean? So when you see these things, how can you turn around and just pretend like it's not a problem,
Yeah.
And then I think people focus, like they say, oh, the healthcare system in America is bad. It should be free, etc. Well, that's a whole other topic, but they ignore that very one fundamental thing, I think. But I think that also requires traveling and getting to know other cultures and other places, which a lot of people haven't done. A lot of people haven't left their own city or state,
Yeah,
So.
and just to wrap it up on the lyrics, so like the chorus and like the verses are about that, like the social commentary, but then like the later verses that I do, like that scene where I'm just yelling at Joe, and like my very last verse is just like about like talking about like, well, I don't care to say this, like if people like flame me for it, like whatever, like I'd rather go die than suck it, like whatever, be mad about it, like this is who I am and this is what I believe in, and like that makes me a bad person, whatever. I'm not trying to be good or bad, I'm just like trying to
be you.
Trying to be myself. Yeah, exactly. That's what it's about.
Okay, we're gonna follow along to the same narrative that we did with On Repeat and go into the video and what we see in there. Outfits are a big deal in this one, and I spent a fair bit of time trying to figure out who the good guys and who the bad guys are, and I kind of came to the conclusion that you're probably all bad guys in that one. It's a bit like Breaking Bad. It's just
Amazing.
who's your morally gray favorite character.
Yes.
So tell me.
Only one good character, I think, but
Who's the
again,
good-
matter.
I
of
disagree
perspective.
though. So what do you think, George?
Well, I thought that the doctors were obviously bad characters in that narrative, and that maybe the vultures are good characters because you're like taking the masks off of people, off of your bandmates, and you're giving them like means to express themselves in a way when you give them the instruments. But then that could also be that you're just like manipulating them to play what you want or something. So there's different ways of looking into it.
Yes.
So that one's kind of ambiguous. The doctors are, and I'm not throwing
Obviously
slack at
bad.
actual doctors, but yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone's a bad guy. Let's go.
Yeah. Oh, so we're talking about this? Yeah, no, you're pretty right. I mean, the vulture is intended to be the good person. I can see the narrative behind that as well, that it leaves a question mark, but the idea behind that's why I wanted the character to look menacing, is that very often the people that are painted as villains in society, online, whatever, are actually good guys. They're actually trying to do something good and change something for the better, but people just, pounce on them and just criticize them for everything. Or sometimes it could just be like the way you look. If you just look like a bad guy, people are just going to think you're a bad guy. So that's what I wanted to show with that character. Whereas the white outfit look with like angel nurse or whatever you want to call it is the opposite, that like sometimes someone that looks like angelic and pretty and innocent actually has ill intentions. Basically, don't judge a book by its cover. That was my idea with my looks. And then for Robby's looks, it's obviously bad guys.
Yeah, but it goes back to like, this was like a thing I brought up, and Vicky might disagree with it, but it's in the video where it's kind of this topic of like, sometimes the person who causes the problem shows up. I got the solution. So it's like, well, if you look at the video, Vicky actually unleashed this by like fiddling with that hourglass, and it unleashes me. I was inside of it, kind of like an evil Dr. Genie. And like, that's the scene where like, where you see me with this black outfit
in the desert.
I'm in the hourglass, and then I pop out, and then she joins me as the nurse, to do all this like scheming while I'm the evil doctor. So it's like, hey,
that's
and
just
then
me playing
and then
characters. I'm not the same
then
person.
she comes in and
No, that's just
saves
because
the
we
day.
can't afford actors, so we had to play all the roles ourselves. But these would all be different people.
I don't know. That's something someone nefarious would say.
I like this banter. This is you when the blindfolds come off and you look at each other and on repeat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, like the same with on repeat. It's like, this was my intention. I love hearing multiple narratives to it, even if it wasn't exactly that. I think music and visuals should be that. Don't make it painfully focused on one thing, because then how can people relate to it? So if you can relate to it in a slightly different meaning than its original intention, then I only see that as a good thing.
Yeah, and then for like the storyline concept, like what happened was like, we're like, okay, how do we try to do things on a budget? So I was like, okay, the song's called Masquerade Parade. Let's try to make every scene like a parade, that it's like constantly moving and flowing and we don't really go back too much. We do for some parts, but it just keeps on flowing and like there's more things added as like things go on. So that was the concept behind it. Like there's like different scenes, different outfits for everything, and it just flows. It's very cinematic in that way. So I was very happy with the results. I'm like, oh, this is really cool. Like it was like a lot of just acting and good shots and different cool locations. And yeah, we made it happen. It was a lot of work. We worked on it several days.
Yeah, it was like a whole week of filming, but thankfully a lot of the stuff was done DIY. Like, we have amazing deserts here.
Makeup artist.
I try. But yeah, we have we just walked up a mountain and filmed, like we couldn't do that in Chicago, you know what I mean? So we're blessed with that. And the shots with Robby being the puppet sort of politician on the podium, that was done in our garage. We were able to DIY about half the video, which made it a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
All right. There's still more things in the video that I want to call out and ask you about those. So there's speakers everywhere in that psych ward thing that you're playing in. There's at some point, I pointed this out at 1 minute 40 seconds in the video. Robby's holding up a paper that says corn dog.
Yes.
And I have some ideas about that. And anything else? Did I have anything else?
Be great to hear your ideas.
Yeah, I think that's a bogus prescription from a doctor. That's not needed.
That's nice.
That's pretty nice.
That's a good one. The honest truth is we just like to always incorporate memes that we got going on of the day, like inside jokes of the band. So like we had a thing with like Phil, like he's from Greece. So like he's like, corn dog, what's a corn dog? And like we gave it to him. So we incorporated that. Like there's a corn dog phase going on within the band. And we're like, yeah, corn dogs are great. They're called pogos in Canada.
Yeah.
I feel this is the point where I have to give a disclaimer that I'm not sure what corn dogs are either.
Oh.
It's, I guess in UK they have beef Wellingtons. I don't know if you know what that is.
No, it's not a beef Wellington.
It's kind of like a shitty beef Wellington.
Bro, what are you talking about? Oh my god.
I'm zipping it, not saying anything.
Beef Wellington costs like hundreds of dollars.
I know. It's a very poor man's
it's a hot dog, essentially, that...
on a popsicle stick.
You put it into like corn, a batter that you make for cornbread. So you use corn flour, whatever. Cornbread's like a thing that we eat here in the South a lot, like barbecue and stuff like that. So it's a hot dog, you dip it into batter, corn dog batter, and you cook it. But obviously we just buy them frozen, ready-made and cook them. But,
and it's best eaten with mustard.
Yeah, people do mustard ketchup. I don't think ketchup works personally because the corn dog dough is like sweet. So it's kind of like you're eating something savory with something sweet, and ketchup doesn't really work. I either eat it on its own or just mustard, personally. Yeah. But anyways, yes. I don't think they have this in Europe.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
No, that's why Phil didn't know about it.
Yeah.
I did not expect that we'd be talking about food. This is great.
Yes.
But yes. We just rolled with it. I can't even remember. We were in the studio. We were like, corn dog, and we put it on the thing. And
but it was kind of like what you said, like a bogus prescription thing where you're just writing nonsense. So we just put in our inside band joke that nobody's going to get. But,
also, if you only eat corn dogs every single day, I'm sure you won't be the healthiest person on the planet. So,
no.
ties into our lyrics.
There's another problem with that, which is it is a prescription from a doctor, but you can actually read it.
Uh-oh.
So
that's your first clue there.
All right. I think we're going to move on. But before we move on to Wildfires, I want to touch on a few things more general about the music that these two that we've talked about really point out. One is you guys have mentioned that there's a main theme to the album. And I've been trying to piece together what that is. And I haven't quite gotten it yet because there's like a lot of ideas that are consistent between these two. And I can't pick one. And I also can't really synthesize them in one idea. So I'm not asking you to really just give it away, but give me a bit about the general theme of the album and how that comes out of these two songs.
It actually, you might be confused as to why we kept saying that about the album, but it's because most of the other songs aren't out yet, but the themes mostly tie in closer to On Repeat, I'd say, than the other two. Like Wildfires and Masquerade Parade are actually kind of the wild card. Only two wild card songs on the album, yeah. Like they don't sound like, theme-wise, they're not like the other songs. The other ones are closer together, so that's why there may be confusion there, but yeah.
I think, so the one thing I will say is that I think it's an album that is meant to be consumed as is from start to finish. Like, for the first time, it was pretty easy to come up with the order of the songs. Like, it just made perfect sense to me. In the past, with albums that I've done, even the EPs that we split, it was always like a head scratcher. Like, wait, should this go first? This go second? With this album, it made a lot of sense. And I can't exactly explain why. You'd have to hear it. But it's, from a musical perspective, it makes a lot of sense because it takes you on kind of a roller coaster of emotions. But like one song flows into the other quite well. So I don't want to, like, I don't care to say it and people listen to it, but I kind of want you to hear it too and see if you pick up on it without me just giving it away, So that's one part of the theme. It's just how concise it is and how it flows. One part flows into the other. And then we do have certain melodies or certain lyrics that may repeat or be present in other songs. So that kind of like, that comes, it's funny because I just did an interview about that. That comes from like my love for prog music. Like a lot of my favorite prog albums always did that, where it's like this chorus that you heard 5 songs ago comes back, but in a different way. So we did that a little bit on this album. And then thematically, like Robby said with the lyrics, it is closer to On Repeat. It has to do a lot with human relationships and the emotions that come from that. Cross Me Twice, that's a good, it's a lyric from a song, not a song title that hasn't been released yet. So when we were coming up with album titles, Robby just looked at all the lyrics and put down like 20 different possible album titles. And that one, we were just like, oh, that really works for what a lot of the songs are about.
It ended up being very fitting with our personal situation that happened within the band too. So I'm like, oh, okay, works out. That was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were just really going through it at that time. Like all of us that were involved in the band at that time, we were just like,
we still are.
Yeah, we still are. There's a lot of like struggles still going on, but yeah, we just put it into the music and it's a beautiful piece. So I like it. Yeah. Like Vicky said, there's not like 10 tracks on it. It's just one big prog song. No, I'm kidding.
I don't know about that.
I'm kidding. No.
Yeah.
But they all do flow. It really flows well together when you hear it from beginning to end.
Also, if you do hear it on probably not Spotify, I'm not sure where it is where they don't add like a second between the songs.
Maybe Tidal? Tidal?
I have no idea. But physical album might be like that. I don't know. But anyways, if you hear it without the added like gap that streaming services add, it just connects.
Seamless.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also a very prog thing to do.
It worked. It wasn't intended. It just, if it's going that way, just embrace it,
Okay. sound design.
Yeah.
For these two songs we've been talking about, you've actually put out isolated tracks of vocals and keys. And
Yes.
it's listening to those kind of shows you that music is a bit like an iceberg.
I'm fucking fed up. I'm fucking fed up.
You don't know why it feels the way it feels. There's so much under the surface, and seeing those kind of, made me grateful and appreciate music in a different way. So tell me a bit about that. How do you integrate such a large amount of sound design and keyboards in a genre that typically doesn't have it? And how much more do you have compared to older songs? Because those seem a lot more bare bones, stripped down.
Yeah, no, it's night and day. The old songs essentially were just really full, and we were on a deadline at the time, which didn't even need to be there because then the pandemic happened and we didn't even release it. But we were kind of on a deadline, and I was like, I only have 3 days to do some keyboard stuff for the whole album, which were the 2 EPs at the time. So for 9 songs, minus the acoustic, I did all the keys in 3 days. Whereas with this album, I probably spent minimum 3 days on each song. So night and day. The EPs had maybe 4 or 5 tracks of keys, tops. Here, you're probably looking at 15 to 20 tracks. Some having more, Wildfires actually has a great amount. We were really busy with something and we didn't put out that isolated track yet, but I'm sure we will at some point. But yeah, it's, I really took my time with it. And I think because there was a lot more room sonically with this album because of the difference in dynamics, like we go from super soft parts to super heavy parts. It started from filling in the softer parts with sound design, but then feeling like, okay, now it's on the soft parts, then the guitars really kick in, it feels kind of empty, so I have to add there as well. So let's just say that the more songs I worked on, the more they were filling up. Because I was getting more confident with the process too, and adding stuff. And then there are certain parts of songs where it's only sound design. So Wildfires, for example, the bridge right before the final chorus, the band isn't playing there at all. Like when we play that song live, everyone just stops and it's just the tracks and myself.
You go knock down what you don't understand, but we are on another level.
And there's a few other moments on the record that do that as well. So it started from just adding a little bit to, well, wait a second, if I just delete the drums and guitars and whatever on this section and just make it all sound design and 808 beats and stuff like that, it's just going to sound cooler, I think.
Yeah, I'm proud of you, Vicky. Yeah, she really worked tirelessly on this record, like from doing like a lot of the music and like the rearranging of songs. It's like, that's why she's the primary songwriter for everything. And like her sound design really tied everything all together. Whereas like a lot of songs, like just very stripped down, they kind of sounded different. It's like, well, how's this going to flow into the next one? But Vicky did a good job of like putting her sound design on everything. And that's where the unity comes from with all the songs, and it just flows so beautifully. And then like, that's not even to mention like all the vocal stuff she did. She has like layers and layers of vocals, and then there's the stuff I added as well. But
I consider the vocal layers as part of the sound design sometimes, especially if they're like choirs or whatever versus like straight up backing vocals.
I was very surprised to hear that there's actually layering on the Robby screams too, because I know that you do a lot of harmonies and stuff, but Robby, your vocals always seemed a lot more just bare bones. So to hear that coming in and out too was really cool.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I do. A lot of people don't realize it, but you could hear it in some of the songs. I think Masquerade has it, where I kind of do like jokey vocals in the background. It's very subtle, so if you're listening with headphones, you might pick up on them. I do like some backing ad libs, like I just like say like. I think there's one song I do like a ooh thing.
Doctors ain't about the health, only in it for the wealth. Masquerading practitioner.
Like it's in Masquerade. It's in my my verse, my rap verse. You could hear it like at the end, like, and that comes from like my love of System of a Down, like just Serge's vocal style. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Serge's vocal style. Serge's vocal style.
We gotta go. Thanks, sir. Thanks.
Well, try to say Serge. It's not so difficult. Serge sounds like a detergent.
Serge's vocal style. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Let me try to like throw some comedic relief in, like in the songs. Like, even though it's a serious theme, especially if it's a serious theme like Masquerade, I like to do this like jokey thing. Like, hey, like, okay, this might be serious for people, but I'm not a serious guy. Like, really, if you get to know me, like, I just like to have fun, and I'm cool with everyone. So,
All right. Let's move on to Wildfires. Wildfires has the coolest pre-breakdown line ever, and like the coolest entrance to a breakdown that I've heard in a really long time.
Break it down. Break it down. Break it down, boy.
yeah.
That's really cool because it's usually breakdowns, especially in the more extreme genres, are always this drawn out, suspenseful break before them that you know it's coming so long before it's coming, and then it almost doesn't really have that much impact when it does anymore. So it just comes at you by surprise like that. It's something else. But then I looked into it, and you have like very different ways of introducing the breakdown in all three of the songs. So give me the ABCs of how to make an effective breakdown. Because it's not a okay, is that too complicated? Or is that
No, I mean, I guess effective breakdown isn't that subjective. Because like I think we're more traditional in how we approach our breakdowns. Which we think is effective and the very definition of a breakdown. Whereas I think now breakdowns have become this other thing entirely that we're not about, you know? So to other people, that's an effective breakdown. To us, we're like, that's bullshit. Anyone can do that. Like for me, a breakdown was always, it has to be groovy. It still has to groove. You still have to bob your head to it. It can't just be like weird hits at weird times and just brutal vocals for no reason. Like it still has to feel super groovy, just at a slower pace. So I think we try to do that no matter what. Yeah,
and always like this doesn't just apply to breakdowns, but I always try to be like, okay, what have we done in the past? What are other bands doing? And I never look to copy anybody. I'm just like trying to fill that void of like, okay, what's missing? So let's do a breakdown like this in this manner. And that's why like we try to make no song sound the same. That doesn't apply for the themes on this record. Some of the themes kind of, it's just like the same story, just flowing, but they are all very different songs, every single one of them. So just comes from that approach of like, let's not bore ourselves and let's try to be different with every song while still being us, still being Sicksense.
I don't even think we're trying to be different. We just are. Yeah. I think it's the opposite. We're not trying to sound like everybody else. And I've come to this realization through meeting other musicians and talking to them and seeing their songwriting process. It actually shocked me when I learned that a lot of people listen to a lot of music to write their own music. And they're like, I kind of want to do a song like this, you know, and then they copy kind of that formula and they create their own song. And I just can't ever picture doing that myself. And I don't mean this as any disrespect. It's just, I feel like that would take all the joy out of it for me, because this already exists and I'm trying to create something like it. Whereas I prefer that it's all on a subconscious level. It's like all the music I heard in my life, all at the same time in my head, what's coming out in this moment, you know, and it feels more effortless and it feels more in line with who I am as a person. So I think that's it. We're not trying to be like anybody else. We probably could. If we sat down, we're like, let's make the heaviest breakdown and do animal noises and go as low and high as we can do, like straight up like modern deathcore. We could do it if we wanted to, but throw a black in
More
there.
black, isn't it? Black? Like
I don't know. I've
bleh,
heard both.
bleh,
I've heard
black?
bleh.
What's
I've heard
black?
black.
That makes it worse. Black? I don't like that.
Because you do the at the end.
I feel like-
Anyways.
No.
I feel like what you guys want to do, if you want to become more extreme, is just write a diss track.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we could. We straight up could. Yeah. But diss tracks, I feel like it has to be personal. I don't
Mhm.
like it when people just come out to get someone just to get
Oh,
the attention.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be like, hey, I met so-and-so backstage from another band and they were a piece of shit to me. Okay, I'm gonna write a diss track about this person. But if it's like, I heard rumors that so-and-so is a bad person, I'm gonna write a song to diss them so that I could get heat for myself, I don't do that shit. It has to actually be personal. So I can't say that I know anyone super noteworthy that I would want to do that for, I don't know. It still has to feel, the diss track still has to feel from the heart, not
Yeah.
just like a publicity stunt, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, I wasn't actually trying to get you to diss anybody, but
No,
yeah.
No, I know. It just got me thinking. That's all.
Okay, switches into triplets on the bridge part, breakdown part in Wildfires, and all these sorts of changes in rhythm.
Easy doesn't go funky and we can't break the rockets. A million trumpets to the ways of punish only present the case. Disturb a place to get your face out of the chains we're clearly back.
That's something that I hear a lot in prog. That's where I became accustomed to those type of elements. How do you know where that works in your style?
I think as long as you, it's the thing I said with rhythm, if it's grooving. Like, as long as you don't stop and you're like, wait, I don't know how to move to this, then it works. It's really that simple. Like,
Okay.
if it changes, but you're still like, like, on the same beat, then it works. It's still grooving. I don't know. That's how I see it.
Okay.
It's something as simple as that. Like, I try to think of like the average music listener that knows nothing about music theory or rhythm or anything. Are they still able to move their head and not just sit there confused? Then it's working.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Quick and easy. I don't mind it.
Yeah. I feel that's the same way about key changes as well. Not to say that we do those or, well, I don't know if we haven't done it in a song we've released yet. But generally speaking, I love it when the key change happens and you haven't even noticed it. You're in a whole other key and you're still like, yeah, this song's great. When you make it too obvious, I feel like it just throws
Wait
people
a second,
off.
I'm in a different room. How did that happen?
Yeah. Huh.
All right. That pretty much concludes what I had about the singles themselves. We do have a couple more stuff.
Yeah.
This one's going to be Vicky focused.
Okay.
So the first time ever that my brother and I did a reaction to a Call of Duty Easter egg song, we talked about you because we felt that, I don't remember exactly what the point was, but I remember that the change in vibe between the clean and scream that Elena was doing in 115, it just reminded me of how you did those two different things in the Agonist back then.
Yeah.
So pretty much since the beginning, I've been hoping that I would hear you do some Call of Duty stuff, and then some reels show up, and that was pretty nice. And then a whole cover shows up, and that's my dream come true.
And then you get an original.
Yeah. Okay. So about that type of stuff, let me process my questions a little bit here. When you work on someone else's song, how do you still stay true to yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you negotiate with that other person, in this case, Kevin, so that would still work for him?
Yeah, it is case by case. Admittedly, most of the features I have done in the past, the majority of them, I just did my own thing. 'Cause a lot of them weren't full songwriters. They were like musicians that write the instrumental, but they don't deal with lyrics or vocals. Or if they do, they still just wanted me to do my own thing. So I think like 90% of the features I've done, I've just had complete creative freedom to do whatever I wanted. So that I could say I'm a little spoiled in that, because I haven't been in situations of like possible friction or tension too much, where it's like, hey, I want this, but the songwriter wants that. What do I do? You know, I can't say that's ever really happened to me. I've done a few features where in the past where like I was given the lyrics, and like the main vocal melody, and I just kind of did what they wanted because I felt like it would be a losing battle to even suggest anything else, because you can tell when you meet someone how flexible they are and how much of they want you to put yourself into it, versus like, I just like your voice, just sing this for me, you know. So when I pick up that that's going to be the vibe, I'm like, it's a losing battle, just do what they want, even if you disagree. With Kevin, however, I felt like we both went into it, we didn't know how it was going to be. But I felt like when he sent me the first demo, which was the track and like just a MIDI keyboard with the main notes and the lyrics, a lot of it just made sense to me. A lot of like, especially when I heard the chorus and how the chorus ends, it's like I was hearing the melody before it even played. And it felt like something I would have done anyways in a lot of those situations. So it was easy because it's like, yeah, I didn't write it, but I also didn't really want to change the essence of it. And then I did make a few proposed changes, like verse 2, I changed it quite a bit, melodically. And then maybe a couple lyrics were changed just so that the vocals can flow better. But I did a scratch track and I sent that to Kevin and he approved it. And he himself said, you know, like, it's funny hearing it with the MIDI. It sounds better my original way, but then hearing it with your voice, what you're doing is better. So it was really like a great collaboration. It all happened in like a week, maybe, because, you know, Call of Duty deadlines and all that. I wanted to make sure that Joey had enough time to mix it. Joey, who also mixed Cross Me Twice.
Yeah, wasn't it like Kevin liked what he heard from our new stuff?
Well,
so that's how he got
so
Joey.
Let me just
Shout out Joey, we love you.
Yeah, a brief thing about that was like around the time I was talking to Kevin for like 2 years or something, and it was just like up in the air, like, hey, do you want to like do a song with me at some point? And I'm like, yeah, sure, just let me know when, you know? And then he hit me up again around the time that Cross Me Twice was done, like fully mastered. And he was like, do you know any mixers that we could try for the song that I'm going to do with you? And I'm like, well, here's our album. What do you think? And he loved the production on it, so I got him into contact with Joey, and then he loved what Joey was doing so much. Joey's mixing all of his songs now, you know? So I love to connect great people, you know, that have that mutual respect.
You guys do have spectacular production value.
Yeah. So
thank you. Yeah, Joey did a great job. It's awesome.
Yeah. And so going back to the song, it really was effortless. Like, I made a few changes. Kevin liked them. Then with the backing vocals, I did most of what he wanted anyways. Like, I like to think of backing vocals as like, there's the main harmony that you need, that without that, the song is not complete, you know, the bread and butter. And then everything else is like extra little sprinkles here and there. So I did all those extra little sprinkles, and both Kevin and Joey were like, it's great, we're keeping it all, you know? So it was really just very easy to do. Yeah. And I think it's mutual, and maybe we'll do another song in the future. I don't know.
Oh, speaking of, didn't the new Call of Duty song come out today? I know this interview is not going to come out today, but...
Oh, yeah, the new song?
The new one with Matt Heafy.
Ah, nice.
I've just seen that drop before joining, yeah.
I'm going to check it out, yeah. It's also funny being a part of that, so it's like I knew about this. Like, I knew Christina had done a song way before, you know, I knew Matt was going to do a song way before, so it's cool. It's like, can't say anything.
You can't say anything, so there's gonna be more.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Okay. We move on.
Yes.
I'm gonna come back to what you guys do, and you guys are doing something very cool that I have never seen any other band do: homemade merch.
Oh.
So tell the people's watching how that works and why you've decided to do this DIY with such a, long and difficult and Robby exhausting project.
Well, it's actually a lot of bands here in the States actually do their own merch. A lot of like the smaller bands or even bigger bands. Hell, yeah, just everyone I meet apparently is doing merch, and I'm like,
not everyone.
A lot of people I meet, I'm like, hey, I could do merch for you, and they're like, oh yeah, I do it myself. I'm like, oh damn it. But it's great to be able to do it ourselves. It just came from this place of like, in life, like if you want something done, just do it yourself. It comes from that saying. It's like, it's true. It's just like we were working with a great guy, Paul Kerr, back in Chicago. But he's phenomenal. But the shipping costs to get like him to do our merch and then ship it to us here in Arizona, it would be too costly. It's just like, so I'm like, well, I don't really trust anyone here. I don't know anyone in Arizona.
Well, it's not about that only. It's about the flexibility to print however much you want to print. I think that was the main thing for us.
That is a driving factor,
Yeah.
just the creativity aspect of it.
For example, we have this listening party thing that we're doing after our show here, and we're looking at 10 to 15 people max, and we want to give them a limited t-shirt. Who are we going to find that's going to print only 15 shirts of a limited t-shirt, Yeah. And I saw this problem time and time again, even with The Agonist, and other bands where it's like you finish a tour and you have all this leftover merch because the companies that you're working with, they only do X amount minimum to give you a good price. Mm-hmm. So when you're a smaller band, like what are you supposed to do? Only do one t-shirt design and hope it sells over like the course of the year? Like we wanted to be able to have multiple designs and do super limited stock that's just going to sell out. So I think that was the main driving factor for us.
Yeah, we wanted to just be more creative, and like I have a bunch of ideas for merch, and I sit down with Phil too. Phil has come up with some stuff like our Wildfires t-shirt. That was a Phil design, but a lot of it just comes from like inspiration from the album artwork and our songs. Mm-hmm. Like that's how I came up with the album artwork concept and everything in the booklet. I did shitty 2-year-old doodle sketches of everything, but Phil was able to bring it to life, and he did the same with the merch design. So it just comes from that place. Like we just want to fulfill ourselves creatively and give back to the people who support us too. It's like, oh great, a new cool Sicksense shirt. Let me get that. So
yeah,
it's been a really good experience. It took a lot of time to learn, but now I got it. Now I got a handle of things. There's a lot of mistakes made in test stuff, and I got it.
You gotta make mistakes to learn.
Jump in, swim in the deep end, figure it out. Don't drown.
Yes.
I look forward to getting mine.
Yes, I was going to ask.
Oh, no.
It's international, but it should be a matter of days at this point. Like, it was shipped out a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I apologize. It took me a long time to figure out the Wildfires shirt.
No, but it was shipped out a while ago.
Yeah, but I only got to making that, like, right before we left for the Snot shows. Like, I had them ready, like, the week of that we were playing those shows, because it's just things going on in life, and I'm like, okay. Now, let me do it. I gotta send it.
Okay, now I'm happy because your Wildfires designs still say pre-order on the website, so I figured that they would probably be shipped out.
Change that. Thank you.
Yes, they are out.
Yeah, I figured that those would probably ship out somewhere around album release, so I was still planning on waiting for a month or two.
It might be like in Europe already.
It should be on its way. Yeah, we sent it out right before we left for
like 2
California,
weeks ago. Yeah.
Okay. You may or may not remember from the last time we talked that I said that I always leave at the end the questions that unless I get answers, I can't sleep at night.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and it seems there's another point of concern because jamming your stuff so much as I've done lately, I've seen a pattern with the music videos. So on repeat, Robby explodes into flowers. In Masquerade Parade, he gets zipped up in a body bag, which is not that great. You get pasta thrown on you in Kings Today. You get trapped in a TV in Forgotten Days. And even before Sicksense was a thing, you get choked and drowned in Remnants in Time by The Agonist. So, okay, you're frequently taking one for the team. So the question is just this. Are you in a situation where I should ask you to blink twice?
Blinks like 30 times. I mean, everyone always tells us to drop the rap, right? So
It's funny. Yeah, it's a funny theme. Yeah, we were noticing that coming up with the video concept, especially for this album release. It's like, why is Robby always getting punished? But
I don't know.
Just, I'm the bad guy.
I'm the bad guy, I'm a savage, I'm obsessive, I'm dramatic, I'm a loner, I'm an addict, I'm so goddamn problematic.
So there you go.
He's always like, I'm a professional trained wrestler. You could do anything to me. I can take it. Funny enough, for On Repeat, when he falls, you know, we had him fall from, like, get kicked from a elevated sort of platform. Table. I think it was just a table. And he falls onto a mattress. But before the mattress, he was like, oh, just on the floor, no problem. And these were like concrete floors in the studio. I'm like, are you stupid? And then we put the mattress and he was still like feeling the concrete floor underneath. Hurt. Yeah. But
I was just dumb. I didn't realize the perception of it. I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's just like a back bump. You know, it's fine.
Yeah, but it's not a wrestling ring.
But then I realized, I'm like, wait, from this elevation, this is like taking a superplex in wrestling. Now, taking a superplex is a suplex off of the top turnbuckle. So I was taking bumps like 10 times in a row for this video shoot, like of that magnitude, mattress or not. Like a wrestling ring has like its bump that like has some give where it's like, yeah, when you fall, you bump a little back, but like even though I was falling on a mattress, it's still like I'm hitting the concrete like through it. It's like, it was, painful experience.
It's just
I'm like,
funny how
I'm dumb. Like,
he went
this
from
hurts.
being so cocky to like, yeah, just on the floor. I don't need a mattress to, oh my God, I'm dying even with this mattress.
I was like, oh my, and then Vicky got a couple good shots in my ribs too. So on top of it, I'm like, oh God. This is a straight shoot shot, and I'm getting.
How many takes did you guys have to do of that?
It wasn't a lot. You're lucky I got it pretty quick. It was under 10.
Yeah.
Okay, she says it wasn't a lot. Do you think it was a lot?
I mean,
no, it wasn't.
On paper, yeah, it's not a lot. Like for like taking that amount of bumps with that magnitude in a row, it's a lot. Like even like for any.
But imagine
any
if I couldn't land the kick and it didn't look realistic. We might have had to do it like 30 times.
Thankfully, I'm a trained professional, and thankfully Vicky is really good. She's pretty solid with it. So
pretty good at kicking things.
Yeah, she's pretty good at kicking me in particular. So it worked out. Yeah, it wasn't too much. My body, I felt it the next few days, but I got over it.
So all this to say, his mannerisms and his like attitude of like, yeah, I could take a professional this and that. It makes it an easy choice because he's willing to go through the process. So we're like, why not?
Yeah, I could do my own stunts safely, so it's fine. I'm willing to do it. It's gonna be like something visually cool. So it's like, yeah, let's make it happen. There's no union stuff with me or anything. I don't care. Like whatever, like drown me in the river or whatever. Let's do it. Like that's what Kells was saying when we were filming that. He was like with Jonathan was helping him out. Like that's his go-to like guy that he collaborates with for videos, and like they were just like both saying like, yeah, this wouldn't pass in like by Hollywood standards. They'd like not allow any of this to happen, like what they were putting me through. But I'm like, yeah, whatever. Let's do it. It's cool. I like that. I think like certain limitations, it's like if you're an artist, like whether you're an actor or like a musician, just like make it happen. Just do it. Like if it's something cool and it'll benefit the story, go for it. Like the hell with the regulations. Nah.
I'm very happy with that. Well, then that would be all for the interview.
Well, that's it. That's the only question for you to sleep at night? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
How many am I supposed to have?
The way you presented it, I thought there was going to be like a list.
Oh.
I was like, what else is there?
I mean, last time there was one, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. That wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining. It was a pleasure. Everyone watching at home, check out Cross Me Twice. It drops today. And by today, I mean in the future because we're filming this in the past.
Right.
But yeah, thank you guys so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, George. Thanks for having us. Appreciate you.